What is a shart, a condition? Is that which must be done before the salah. Without it, the salah is invalid. And its ruling, or it must continue throughout the salah. And he mentioned the salah has how many shurut, how many conditions? 9. He said shurutu salati tis'ah. And he mentioned the 9. And then he explained three of it last week. We explained al-Islamu, the first condition, which is Islam, the person must be a Muslim. And the second, Muhammad, the wudu must be saying what's in Arabic? Al-aqlu, you must have aql. And then the third, age of puberty. He's right, but in the book, tamyiz, discernment. Is tamyiz, okay, al-Islam and aql. It is the conditions, those two conditions are the conditions of the salah with which the salah becomes obligatory. Because the conditions, the shurut of salah of two types. There are conditions, if the person meets it, salah becomes obligatory upon him. And there are conditions, if the person meets it, his salah is correct. So the conditions that make salah obligatory upon a person are the first three. Al-Islam wal-aqlu. In other books, normally al-bulugh, which is to reach the age of puberty. However, here he mentioned tamyiz. And tamyiz is not from the shurut wujubi salah. It's not the conditions that make the salah obligatory. It is shurutu sihhati salah. It is from the conditions of the rectitude of the salah. Because if someone reaches tamyiz, salah is not wajib upon him. But if he makes salah, it is correct. Salah is correct. And therefore someone who reaches tamyiz can also lead the salah because his salah is correct. And man sahat salatuhu li nafsihi, sahat imamatuhu li ghayrihi. Whoever salah is correct for himself, his imamah is correct for other than himself. And therefore a child who reaches age of tamyiz can stand in front for salah. If he is the most aqra, he is the best reciter. So the three shurut we mentioned last week, al-Islam wal-aql wal-tamyiz. And we said tamyiz is at what age normally? Age of 7. Okay. And the hadith, who remembers the hadith? The hadith of tamyiz. Muru awladakum bi salati li sab'in. Order your children of salah when they are 7. Wadribuhum alayha li 'ashrin. And beat them when they are 10. وَفَرِّقُوا بَيْنَهُمْ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ. And split between them in their beds. The next shart we'll go through tonight, الشرط الرابع. The fourth, رفع الحدث. To raise the state of impurity. رفع الحدث. To raise the state of impurity. And hadath in the Arabic language is صفة قائمة بالبدن. It is a description that is established on the person's body. And if that is found with the person, he is prevented from making salah and actions that require tahara. So it is a صفة قائمة بالبدن يمنع وجودها من أداء الصلاة وما يفتقر إلى الطهارة. It is a صفة, it's a description قائمة بالبدن, established with the person's body. يمنع وجودها, its presence prevents أداء الصلاة, fulfilling the salah. وما يفتقر إلى الوضوء, and that which requires الطهارة, and that which requires tahara. Because if we say wudu only, we're not including ghusl, and ghusl also removes hadath. Is that clear? So hadath is not the impurity itself. It is a state of impurity, a state that the person goes in, his body is in that state. And if that state is found with the person, he is in a state of hadath, then he cannot make salah. And he cannot perform those actions that require tahara, purification, like tawaf and other actions. And hadath is of two types. The hadath is two types. Hadathun akbar, major state of impurity, and hadathun asghar, minor state of impurity. Hadathun akbar, or al-hadathul akbar, is that which is removed with what? Ghusl. Hadathun akbar is removed with ghusl. And hadathun asghar, minor state of impurity, is removed with wudu. So that which causes hadathun akbar, he will mention a few of that which breaks the wudu further in the book. And that which causes hadathun asghar is also known, and we'll mention a few of it, inshallah. So the fourth shart from the shurut of salah is raf'ul hadath. And the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, لا يقبل الله صلاة أحدكم إذا أحدث حتى يتوضأ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not accept the salah of one of you when he goes into a state of impurity. When he's in a state of hadath, حتى يتوضأ, until he makes wudu. When he's muhdith, Allah does not accept the salah until he makes wudu. And also in the hadith, the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, لا يقبل الله صلاة بغير طهور. Allah won't accept the salah without purification. The person needs to be in a state of purity. He must be upon tahara. And then how do we remove the state of impurity? With water, to make the wudu. And therefore he says here, وَهُوَ الْوُضُوءُ الْمَعْرُوفُ. And to raise the state of impurity, it is by the wudu al-ma'ruf, by the known wudu. What does he leave out? The ghusl. However, it is also that it removes the state of impurity, and we said it is the major one. And how do you remove it? Bilma, with water. To make wudu with water. And if the person doesn't find water for wudu or ghusl, he will make tayammum. With sand, dust. And the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, التيمم طهور كل مسلم. Tayammum is the purification for every Muslim. وإن لم يجد الماء 10 سنين. Even if he doesn't find water for 10 years. فإذا وجد الماء فليمسه بشرته. And when he finds the water, let him make it touch his body. Meaning he should make wudu. So even if he doesn't find the water for 10 years, tayammum will continue. And when do you make tayammum? Normally 2 reasons for a person to make tayammum. إذا عدم الماء, when there's no water, أو تضرر بالماء, or the person becomes harmed by using the water. Those are 2 reasons. طيب, he says, وهو الوضوء المعروف, and it is the known wudu. وموجبه, and that which brings about wudu, or that which necessitates wudu, is al-hadath, is the state of impurity. He says, وَشُرُوطُهُ عَشَرَةٌ, and the conditions for it is 10. So now, under this shart, the 4th shart, is going into the shurut and arkan and the wajibat of wudu. So he's going to explain wudu under the 4th shart. And then we'll go back to the 1st one. Clear? So this shart, we'll spend time on it. He says, وَشُرُوطُهُ, أي وَشُرُوطُ الْوُضُوءِ, the shurut of wudu. 10, it is 10. Al-Islam, number 1 is Islam, that the person must be a Muslim. And we mentioned that before. Wal-Aqlu, and sane again. وَالتَّمْيِيزُ, he must be discerned, be able to, he must have reached the age of discernment. Tamyiz is not puberty. Bulugh is reaching the age of puberty. However, tamyiz is what? Being able to discern between that which is right and that which is wrong. That is tamyiz. And then he says, وَالنِّيَّةُ, number 4. And niyyah is the intention. And the intention is a condition for every act of worship. For every act of worship, the person must have a niyyah. And the proof for it is the hadith of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, all actions are judged by intentions. وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ مْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى, and every person will get what he intended. Then he says, وَاسْتِصْحَابُ حُكْمِهَا بِأَلَّا يَنْوِيَ قَطْعَهَا حَتَّى تَتِمَّ طَهَارَتُهُ. And from the conditions are that he keeps its ruling. Meaning that niyyah that he took to make wudu, he has to make istishab. Meaning he has to keep it with him. Keep the niyyah with him, the ruling of the niyyah, بِأَلَّا يَنْوِيَ قَطْعَهَا, so that he does not intend to break that intention. حَتَّى تَتِمَّ طَهَارَتُهُ, until his tahara is complete. So if he makes wudu, he starts and he decides to do something else, or he changes his intention, yani for the purpose of making wudu for, then the wudu is not valid and not complete. Or if the person, he starts his wudu without the intention, maybe he starts washing his hands and just because he wants to cool down, and then he realizes, I want to make wudu for salah, and then can he continue? No, there's no intention. So the intention must be from the beginning till the end of the action. Istishabul hukm. He has to have this ruling continuous with him. بِأَلَّا يَنْوِيَ قَطْعَهَا, so it does not intend to break it حَتَّى تَتِمَّ طَهَارَتُهُ, until his tahara is complete. The next, وَانْقِطَاعُ مُوجِبٍ, that which necessitates the wudu should stop. Inqita' means the stopping of that which necessitates wudu. What necessitates wudu? Normally, for example, مَا خَرْجَ مِنَ السَّبِيلَيْنِ, what exits the two parts, the private parts. So if the person is busy doing that which necessitates wudu, is urinating, or he is passing a wind, he cannot start with the wudu until that stops. So if he starts with the wudu while that which necessitates the wudu did not stop, then the wudu is invalid. So if the person is passing a wind and he is making wudu, that wudu doesn't count, not valid. He must wait till it finish and then start. So وَانْقِطَاعُ مُوجِبٍ, that which necessitates the wudu should stop. Next, وَاسْتِنْجَاءٌ أَوْ إِسْتِجْمَارٌ قَبْلَهُ, to make istinja or istijmar before it. What is istinja? It is to wash the private part with water, to remove the najasa with water. And istijmar, to remove the najasa with stone or rock or something hard. غير محترم, it is not محترم, قالع للنجاسة, that removes the najasa. That's the conditions. It should not be something honored, muhtaram. Can't make istijmar with a what? With a bone. Or something that is najasa itself. So it must be tahir. That stone or anything hard that you use as istijmar. Because istijmar is what? To use something hard to remove the najasa. And when you're making istijmar, it has to be more than 3 times. Because the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, وَمَنْ إِسْتَجْمَرَ فَلْيُوتِرْ, whoever make istijmar, he should make itar. And itar is 3 or more. And then if the person or the conditions with regards to that which he is using for istijmar are 3, it should be tahir in itself. You cannot make istijmar or something dirty. Second, it must be غير محترم, something not honored. So can't use something that is honored, food, or the person uses a bowl or something. And likewise, it must be qali', it must be removing of the najasa. And some mention other conditions that the najasa that came from the person's private part should not have moved away from where it normally comes out of. So it must be where it normally is. However, if the person's najasa is not where it normally comes out of, then you should purify it with water. And this condition, istinja or istijmar before the wudu, is only a condition when the person broke his wudu by that which comes out of the two paths other than wind. However, if the person passed a wind and he broke his wudu, or with something else, then this is not a condition, not a required condition. Therefore, this condition is not always a condition. It's a condition when the person used the toilet, he urinated, or he passed, did number 2. However, if there is najasa on the person's body other than, or a najasa that did not come from the 2 parts, then his wudu is valid and he can remove it afterwards. Clear? However, if the person, he broke his wudu by something that comes through the 2 parts other than wind, then he cannot make wudu whilst he is dirty there. He has to first make istinja or istijmar, and then he can make wudu. However, if the najasa is somewhere else on the body, his wudu is complete and he can remove it afterwards. Then the next, وَطَهُورِيَّةُ مَاءٍ, and the water must be pure. Tahuriyya of the water. What is ma'un tahur? Ma'un tahur, pure water is tahirun fi nafsihi, mutahhirun li ghayrihi. It is pure within itself and it's purifying for other than itself. Because some water can be pure within itself and not purifying. Like الماء المتغير بما خالطه من الطاهرات, water that is changed or that which enters it of pure things, like juice or something else, maybe the same color as water. However, the person cannot purify himself with it because it is not mutahhir. However, it is tahir. Or ma'un musta'mal, used water, the person cannot use it for wudu. However, if the water is tahirun, mutahhirun, and what is water that is tahur? Simple definition: ما نزل من الماء أو نبع من الأرض. Whatever comes from the heavens or gushes from the earth, and it's upon its aslul khilqa. It's upon its asl. It doesn't change in its, or it's not changed in its color, its taste, or its smell. And if one of those 3 things change, then the water is not usable for wudu, not impure, not always impure. If it changed with something that's impure, then it's impure. However, if you change something pure, then it remains pure, but غير مطهر is not purifying. So the water must be pure and purifying. Clear? And that water that is pure and purifying, recap, is water that is upon its aslul khilqa, and it is ma'un mutlaq, general water, not water that is ascribed to something like ma'ul ward, rose water, and other types of water. It must be water upon its asl. The next, wa ibahatuhu, the water must be permissible. Mi alla yakuna al-ma'u maqsuban, that the water is not water that is stolen. If the person stole the water and he makes wudu with it, then his wudu is invalid. However, في هذا خلاف, there is khilaf in this. And the preponderant view is that his wudu is correct, but he is sinful for stealing the water. Similar to someone who makes salah with silk. His salah is correct, but he is sinful for wearing that silk. Amen. And likewise, the one who stole water to make wudu, his wudu is correct. أجزأه wudu'uhu. His wudu will be correct. However, his stealing is sinful for it. The next, وَإِزَالَةُ مَا يَمْنَعُ وُصُولَهُ إِلَى الْبَشَرَةِ. To remove that which prevents the reaching of the water to the skin. So the person, for him to make wudu, he has to remove that which prevents the water of reaching the skin. By meaning, if there is something on his body that has its own texture, it's thick, then he has to remove it first, like paint, sand, or other than that. He has to remove it first. However, if there is something on his body that covers the color of the skin, like henna and so forth, then it doesn't affect. Obviously, it's for the woman. And if the man have it on his skin by mistake, then his wudu is correct. So, removing that which prevents the water from touching the skin. Then, وَدُخُولُ الْوَقْتِ, entry of time. لِمَنْ حَدَثُهُ وَعَلَى مَنْ حَدَثُهُ دَائِمٌ لِفَرْضِهِ. The entry of time upon the person whose hadath is continuous. What is hadath? Hadath is that state that the person is in, meaning his wudu is broken. So if something that causes hadath for the person doesn't stop, like the person has, what do you call the urine continuously come out. There's a name for it. Or the person passes wind continuously. I don't know, say drip. I don't know, there's other word for it. If the person has this and his wudu breaks continuously, and similarly with the woman who has istihada, who releases blood continuously, then what's the condition for them? The time must have entered for them to make wudu. He cannot make wudu before the waqt of the salah. He has to make wudu after the waqt of the salah has entered, and then his wudu, he makes salah what? Istibahati salah. To make the salah permissible for himself. So he is not making wudu to be on a state of purifying or in a state of tahara continuously. He's making wudu to make the salah permissible for himself. So this wudu that is for istibaha, to make the salah permissible for yourself, is only one fard salah, and as much sunnah salahs as you want with it. So you cannot make salah or wudu before the time of the fard salah, for the fard salah, if the hadath is continuous. If the hadath is continuous, the time must have entered, and he makes with that wudu one fard salah and as much as nawafil as he wants. And then the next salah comes, he has to make a new wudu. Clear? So وَدُخُولُ الْوَقْتِ عَلَى مَنْ حَدَثُهُ دَائِمٌ لِفَرْضِهِ. And we said the person's intention for this wudu is istibaha, to make the salah permissible for himself. Similar like the person who makes tayammum. Similar to the person who makes tayammum. He cannot keep the tayammum till the next waqt. He must make tayammum again, because he must look for water again when the next waqt comes. And if he doesn't find water, he makes tayammum again. So similar to the person who breaks his wudu continuously. So those are the 10 conditions of wudu. Al-Islamu, wal-Aqlu, wal-Tamyizu, wal-Niyatu, واستصحاب حكمها, and the niyyah should be continuous, بألا ينوي قطعها حتى تتم الطهارة وحتى تتم طهارته. You should continue the intention by not intending to break it until his tahara is complete. How much is that? How many is that? 4. وانقطاع موجب, and the stopping of that which necessitates wudu. 5. واستنجاء أو استجمار قبله. Make istinja or istijmar before it. How many? 6. وطهورية ماء, and the purification of the water. وإباحته, and it must be permissible. 7 and 8. وإزالة ما يمنع وصوله إلى البشرة, and to remove that which prevents the water from reaching the skin. ودخول الوقت على من حدثه دائم لفرضه, and the entry of time for the one whose hadath is continuous. And here لفرضه is متعلق بدخول. The word لفرضه is connected to دخول, entry. يعني دخول الوقت, the entry of time, لفرضه. The entry of time must come for his fard. Clear? So once the time enters for the fard salah, على من حدثه دائم لفرضه, على من حدثه دائم, upon the person whose hadath is continuous, then he makes wudu. However, if he makes wudu before that, that wudu does not work and won't be accepted for the salah that he makes once the waqt is entered. The next, وَأَمَّا فُرُوضُهُ, he says, as for the furud, the obligations, and here when they generalize the word furud, they mean the arkan, the pillars of the wudu. وَأَمَّا فُرُوضُهُ, as for the pillars of wudu, that which is obligatory of it, فَسِتَّةٌ, are 6 things. غَسْلُ الْوَجْهِ, to wash the face, number 1. So the first fard of the wudu is to wash the face. وَمِنْهُ, and from washing the face, part of it is الْمَضْمَضَةُ وَالْإِسْتِنْشَاقُ. Al-madmada is putting the water in the mouth, gargling. وَالْإِسْتِنْشَاقُ, and snuffing the water. And it doesn't mention here istinthar, which is to blow it out. Because the ulama, they mention that the istinthar is sunnah and the istinshaq is wajib. Then he mentions وَحَدُّهُ, and the limit of the face, طُولًا, in terms of length, مِنْ مَنَابِتِ شَعْرِ الرَّأْسِ, is from where the head begins, or the hair stems, where the hair stems from, the person's hair stems from, إِلَى الذَّقْنِ, till the chin, وَعَرْضًا, and in width, إِلَى فُرُوعِ الْأُذُنَيْنِ, till the end of the ears, till the ears, and the side of the face. So the first fard, or the rukun of wudu he mentions, is the face. And he mentions وَمِنْهُ, and from it is washing, is al-madmadatu wal-istinshaq. And sometimes we find in some madhahib also, and in Cape Town is highly practiced, that the madmada and istinshaq is considered sunnah. That's how many of us were taught. So they say, they differentiate between the fard wudu and the sunnah wudu. And the fard wudu did not contain the nose and the mouth. And the sunnah wudu contained the nose and the mouth. However, that's incorrect. The reason is because the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he taught us how to make wudu. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, فَغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ, wash your faces. And the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, in the wudu that he taught the ummah, and he never left it out, is to wash part of the face, the madmada and the istinshaq, and he never left it out. And in the hadith of Umar or hadith of Uthman radiyallahu anhu, he said, the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, da'a bi wadu'in, he called for wadu. And what is wadu? With the fatha on the waw. The wadu is the water you purify yourself with, and wudu is the act of purification. So he said da'a bi wadu'in, the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he called for wadu, which is the water. فأفرغ على يديه من إنائه, and then the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he poured onto his hands from the vessel. فغسلهما ثلاثا, and he washed it 3 times. ثم أدخل يمينه في الوضوء, and then he entered his hand into the wudu. So the washing of the hand here before the wudu is not part of the wudu, it is mustahab to wash the hand. He said, فَغَسَلَ وَجْهَهُ ثَلَاثًا. And the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he washed his face 3 times. فَمَضْمَضَ عفوا, he said, أدخل يمينه في الوضوء ثم مضمض واستنشق واستنثر. He washed his face 3 times. مضمض, he gargled. واستنشق, he sniffed the water in. واستنثر, and he blew it out. ثم غسل وجهه ثلاثا. Then he washed his face thrice. And he first make the مضمضة in the istinshaq, and then he washed his face, which shows that it is part of the wudu. And at the end of the hadith, Uthman, he said, I saw the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam يتوضأ نحو وضوء هذا. I saw the Nabi sallallahu make the wudu that I did now, similar wudu. And likewise in the other hadith, when the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he performed wudu, he said, this is the wudu Allah won't accept the salah except with it, which is to wash the face, including the mouth and the nose. So he said, غسل الوجه, washing the face. ومنه المضمضة والاستنشاق. And from it is المضمضة, which is gargling, والاستنشاق, and sniffing the water. وحده. And before we continue, the مضمضة is done by how? How? Putting the water in the mouth, and you do the مضمضة استنشاق together. Put the water in the mouth, and you move it in your mouth, and you spit it out. And whilst you're doing that also, you sniff the water in your nose, and you make istinthar. So you put the water in your mouth, put the water in your nose, sniff it in, make istinthar, and spit out. Doing it together, and that's most madhahib upon doing it together is better. And also with regards to istinshaq, the person has to sniff properly in the water, and not a little. Because the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, وَبَالِغْ فِي الْإِسْتِنْشَاقِ, and go to extent with regards to the istinshaq, except if you are إِلَّا أَن تَكُونَ صَائِمًا, except if you are fasting. So if the person is fasting, he doesn't go to extreme, he doesn't go far. But if he's not fasting, meaning he should sniff it properly in. وَحَدُّهُ, and the limit of the face, طُولًا, in terms of length, مِن مَنَابِتِ شَعْرِ الرَّأْسِ, is from where the hair starts, from the head, إِلَى الذَّقْنِ, till the chin. And this, where the hair starts, this refers to normally. And the person who is excluded from the general ruling is the aqra. And the aqra is who? The bald. And then you have the afra, is the person whose hair grows into his face. So some people, the hair is in their face, and some people, the hair falls to the back. So he starts from where the hair normally starts, not from where his hair is starting at that moment. طيب. وعرضا, and width. You're laughing. It comes with age, brothers. وعرضا, and in terms of width, is from the ear to the ear. وغسل اليدين إلى المرفقين, and to wash the hands till the elbows. And this includes the elbows. And when we say part of the wudu is washing the hands, that the person starts from the beginning of the hand till the elbow. Again, in the fiqh that we normally taught is that the hand is sunnah. So you just wash the arm, it's fard. So they leave out the hand. But the wudu, the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah says in the Quran, فَغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ, and your hands. And the hand starts from there. إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ, till the elbow. And it includes the elbow. Because the hadith, the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Sahabi described, said the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used his hand and he put it around his elbow. Yani when he was washing it. So it includes the elbow. And likewise, when washing the elbow and the hand, the person should consider the folds. So when he's washing his elbow, He folds his hand in and he washes. And likewise the fingers, the finger folds, the barajim, he also washes it. وَمَسْحُ جَمِيعِ الرَّأْسِ, and wiping the whole head. وَمِنْهُ الْأُذُنَانِ, and from it is the ears. And wiping the head is as the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam described in the hadith of Abdullah ibn Zayd. بَدَأَ بِمُقَدَّمِ رَأْسِ, he started, or the Sahabi described, he started from the beginning of his head, ثُمَّ ذَهَبَ بِهِمَا إِلَىٰ قَفَاهِ, and then he took it to the back. ثُمَّ رَجَعَ, and then he brought it back. إِلَى الْمَكَانِ الَّذِي بَدَأَ مِنْهُ, till the place he started from. And then likewise from the things that you wipe of the head is the sides, the hair on the sides. So all falls under it. And then also the ears. It falls under the wipe. Because the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, Al-udunani min al-ra's. The ears are from the head. And likewise also here, differentiating between the ears and the head, saying the ears is sunnah and the head is wajib, there's also no proof for that. وَغَسْلُ الرِّجْلَيْنِ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ, and to wash the feet until the ankles. And the ankles, every foot has how many ankles? 2. The Shia believe that the ankle is the bone that's on the front of the foot that points out, and therefore they wipe over the foot. So, however, we'll get to the hadith or the speak of the wiping of the feet. فَغَسْلُ الرِّجْلَيْنِ, so the feet has to be washed. إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ, till the ankles. And the person must be careful for the part behind the ankle, and the skin behind the ankle. Normally if the person washes his foot, the water doesn't reach there. He has to turn his foot. And the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, وَيْلٌ لِلْأَعْقَابِ مِنَ النَّارِ, woe to the ankles or to the back of the foot of the hellfire. Meaning, take careful note of it. And in the hadith of Abdullah ibn Amr al-As, he said the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam saw us, we were making wudu, and we started wiping our feet. So the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, نَادَى بِأَعْلَى صَوْتِهِ, he proclaimed with a loud voice and he said, وَيْلٌ لِلْأَعْقَابِ مِنَ النَّارِ, woe to the feet, or to the back of the foot of the feet of hellfire. So the person should be careful when washing the foot. The next 2 conditions, at-tartib, sequence, meaning the arkan or the furud of the wudu we mentioned, it should be in the sequence mentioned in the ayah. The face first, then the hands, then the head, and then the feet. وَالْمُوَالَاتُ, and then continuity. It must be after one another. It should not be there should not be a long gap between the washing of the limbs of wudu or the parts of wudu. So much so that the other part is dried, and when you look at the person, you don't even know that he's making wudu. So the person, he makes wudu. For example, if someone makes wudu at home and he says, I'm going to leave my feet for the masjid. So he washes till the head and he says, come to the masjid, washes his feet. What is missing there? Al-muwala. Al-muwala is what? Continuity. Tartib is a sequence. The sequence must be after one another. So if the person goes against the sequence, he washes his hands and then his face, or he starts by his feet and then he goes to his face and then he goes, this wudu is invalid because there's no tartib. طيب, the Shaykh goes into the proofs of all of these 6. He says, وَالدَّلِيلُ قَوْلُهُ تَعَالَى, and the proof is the statement of Allah Most High, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِذَا قُمْتُمْ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ. O you who believe, إِذَا قُمْتُمْ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ, if you stand, or when you stand for the salah, إِذَا أَرَدْتُمْ أَن تَقُومُوا إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ, when you want to stand for Salah. فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ. Then wash your faces. وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ. And your hands till your elbows. وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ. And wipe your heads. وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ. And your feet until the ankles. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we can see all the arkan are mentioned in this ayah. So the rukn, the face is mentioned, the hands and the head and the feet till the ankles. Then likewise tartib is mentioned. How is tartib mentioned in the ayah? The fa. Allah says, فَغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ. Then wash your faces. And the fa in the Arabic language means ta'qib, that the one follows the other. And the others are made atf after the fa. Atf on the fa. And we know the atf, it takes the ruling of that which is before it. So just like the fa is for ta'qib here, the waw in the rest, wa aydiyakum ila al-marafiq, wa amsahu bi, the rest also means ta'qib, meaning must follow after one another. And if someone else to go against that and he says, no, but the waw just means bringing together without following one another, without ta'qib, without meaning that that which is mentioned is after one another, then we say a proof for the tartib is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned the mamsuh bayna maghsulayn. He mentioned that which is wiped between two things that are washed. So that which is wiped is the head, and that which is washed is the hands, and after it comes the feet. So Allah mentioned the wiping between a washed or two things that are washed, which shows us what? Tartib. It's clear how that shows tartib. Because if it didn't mean tartib, then there's no reason for mentioning the mamsuh between the maghsul. Allah will mention it afterwards. That's clear. The Shia, what do they use as a proof for wiping the feet? There's other riwayah, qira'ah that is recited, وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلِكُمْ. Wipe your heads and your feet. So they say they wipe their feet. The Shia, they don't wash their feet. They wipe it. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says وَأَرْجُلِكُمْ in the other qira'ah, then it refers to when the person is wearing socks and he can make masah. However, the ayah وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ, where are you going to go from it? It's clear. However, this clearly shows you that they hold on to falsehood and that they leave the muhkam, the clear verses, and they follow the mutashabih, that it is unclear. And also what shows you that they are misguided is the statement of the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is saying that my ummah will be brought day of qiyamah, their limbs, their feet and their hands and their forehead shining due to the signs of wudu, because they washed it. So one who didn't wash his feet day of qiyamah won't come with his feet shining. So the Shia, they won't come like the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And then he says وَالدَّلِيلُ التَّرْتِيبِ, and the proof for tartib. And he mentions a separate proof for tartib. Al-hadith is the hadith. Ibda'u bima bada Allahu bihi. Start with that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started with. And this hadith is the hadith when the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was on Hajj and he came to Safa and he recited the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Inna Safa wal Marwata min sha'airillah. Indeed, Safa and Marwa is from the signs of Allah, the apparent signs of Allah. And then the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, Abda'u, I start bima bada Allahu bihi, wa that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started with. Meaning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned first Safa and then he mentioned Marwa. So the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he started his sa'i, he's walking at Safa, and he said, I start with that which Allah started with. Meaning, Abda'u bima bada Allahu bihi dhikran, Abda'u bihi fi'lan. What Allah started mentioning first, I started doing it in action first. So similar, the Nabi, just like the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he used that ayah as a proof for tartib in Hajj. Likewise, that same way of using evidence can be used with the ayah of wudu. So we say, start with that Allah started with. فَغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ. Clear? وَدَلِيلُ الْمُوَالَاةِ, and the proof for muwalah. It has to be consecutive, after one another and continuous. Hadith صاحب اللُّمْعَةِ is the hadith of the person of the lum'ah. And the lum'ah, what is the lum'ah? اللمعة is موضع من الجسد. It is a portion of the body that has not been touched by water when the person makes wudu or ghusl. That is a lum'ah. عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, the hadith of the Nabi صلى الله عليه وسلم, أنه لما رأى رجلا, that when he saw a man, في قدمه لمعة, in his foot was a lum'ah. What is a lum'ah? A portion of the body that has not been touched by the water in wudu or ghusl. قدر الدرهم, it was the size of a dirham, a coin. لم يصيبها الماء, it was not touched by water. أمره بالإعادة, the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam ordered him to do it again, to do it over. And he didn't say just go wash that part. The Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam ordered him to repeat the wudu, which shows us that the person has to make muwalah. It has to be continuous. However, it has been narrated from some Sahabi, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, I think, that he used to make wudu and he'd wash another part somewhere else. However, that is his ijtihad, radiyallahu anhu, and the hadith is clear. It is not known any other Sahaba who also did that. Not known. And then he says, وَوَاجِبُهُ, and the obligatory of the wudu, the obligation of the wudu is one thing. At-tasmiyatu. What is tasmiyah? To say, Bismillah. Tasmiyatu ma'a dhikr. To say tasmiyah with a dhikr. To mention the name of Allah in dhikr. Because the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, La wudu'a liman lam yadhkur isma Allahi alayh. There is no wudu for the person who does not mention the name of Allah on it. So the person has to mention the name of Allah on the wudu. And where normally? At the beginning. However, if the person forgets to say Bismillah and he remembers while he's making wudu, what should he do? He say it. Doesn't start the wudu over. However, if the person forgets totally to say Bismillah and he made the wudu finish, does he have to repeat? No. Doesn't need to repeat the wudu. Shaykh Albani rahimahullah ta'ala asked this question, does he have to repeat the wudu? He said, رَبَّنَا لَا تُؤَاخِذْنَا إِن نَسِينَا أَوْ أَخْطَأْنَا. Oh Allah, don't take us into account if we forget or we make a mistake. And the Bismillah is not mentioned in the ayah. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِذَا قُمْتُمْ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ. Clear? So it shows that the command for Bismillah in the wudu is to show its emphasis, and it's emphasized. But if the person remembers it while he's making wudu, he says it. And if he remembers after he made wudu, then his wudu is still complete. Inshallah, in with that naktafi bihada. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. الحمد لله رب العالمين.